Mr. Edwards, character change. Both of you have had controversial past, and both of you say you have changed. What fact or factors have caused you to change?
Well, first, I'm getting older. I'm 64 years old. I've matured. I've made mistakes, and I've learned from them. I like to believe I'm a wiser person. Another thing, too, is I faced the decline in years of my life, and I recognize how long eternity is and what a record is and what history will do. I'm very concerned about leaving a better a record for historians and for the people of this state. I want an opportunity to show what I can do as I did in the good years when I was governor between 1972 and 1980. I would have been able to do that in the last term if the economy had not been so bad and I had not been taken away from my job. You know, we're asking people to take us on faith. We both have problems in our past, and I understand that. To the extent that my problems are involved, I've asked for forgiveness and an understanding by people in the hope that they will say, all right, that's behind us. Now, which of these two men can best lead us? Which can work with the legislature the best? I was in the legislature. I was governor for 12 years. I worked with the legislature. I worked with industrialists. I worked with poor people. I worked with disabled people. I worked with the educators, and I'm very proud of the support that I have from those in the education department who know that I'm a good governor for education, and I'm proud for those in law enforcement that are supporting me because they know my record is good insofar as crime prevention is concerned.
All right, a response now from Mr. Duke.
A lot of things have gone into my change over the years. You know, I've gotten older as well. I've seen people, learned about people, and as we get older, I guess we become more moderate. The thing that really has affected me more than anything else, though, has been my relationship with Christ. I'm a Christian, and I believe that through Christ, all of us become more loving, and all of us start to see things in a different way than we saw them before. And that's really what's made the difference in my life. And I want to take a moment of my time to comment. Mr. Edwards, I've never said that we should take elderly and the sick off the welfare rolls. What I'm saying to you is that the people are abusing the welfare system, and the elderly and the sick, the people who've contributed to our system for so long, who've worked so hard and paid taxes, they're not getting what they need. I know of a lady in her 80s who worked 40 years, is retired, and $378 a month. She can't turn her heater on sometime in the winter. And yet we have a welfare system that encourages illegitimacy, encourages people not to work, allows people to take welfare money and use it for lottery tickets, allows people to take welfare money and use it for drugs. We've got to clean up the system and get the money to the people who really need it in our society, and that is the elderly and the sick and the handicapped.
Mr. Duke and Mr. Edwards, I'd like to expand on that question. Both of you have talked about your religion. If you could you tell us what church you attend, the name of the pastor there, and what was the last time you were there?
I attend St. Jude's in Baton Rouge, Father Collins. He's an Irish priest. In the last few months, though, I have spent a great deal of time in other churches because of the campaign. I went to the Baptist church in North Baton Rouge with a friend of mine. I've been to 2 Pentecostal churches, one at Winfield, one at Alexandria. I was there on October the 6th, I think it was, at the Pentecostal church. I've been to 2 Baptist churches in Shreveport and 2 in New Orleans. You know, because as you travel around the state in the campaign, you find yourself in different locations from time to time.
I go to the Evangelical Bible Church, and the closest pastor I'm to in my life is Reverend Runstedt, who gives me an awful lot of spiritual advice and counseling, and I really appreciate him. And if you're watching, I thank you very much for everything you've done for me in my life and my relationship with Christ.
All right. I allowed that to go on just so we could speed with the program, but let me remind the panel members that technically the rules are, and I was sort of reading minds here, neither one of these gentlemen seemed to object, but technically the rules are: 1, redirect to the person that was asked the question, just so everybody's on the same page here. A question to Mr. Duke from Barry Irwin.
Mr. Duke, you have proposed doing away with affirmative action programs, yet the federal government requires affirmative action in certain programs, and in programs where they allow grants to such state agencies as the Highway Department, where large grants are given. The question is, how can you do away or eliminate affirmative action programs in Louisiana without costing the state huge amounts of money?
First off, many affirmative action programs aren't linked to the federal government. There's much racial discrimination going on against people in the state, and state government, and private industry. There's a lot of quota systems going on, and I believe in the Constitution of the United States. I believe that you should be judged by your merits and your talents and not your race. I don't believe in preferential treatment on the basis of race. I think quotas are wrong. Now, as far as the highway funds, when I had a bill that would outlaw set-asides, I had a rider in it that if it came to the point that our highway funds would be threatened, that the bill would not go into effect. Let's make the federal government clear on that issue. And I think it's time for the people of the state of Louisiana to stand up for our rights, go into the federal courts. I think the Constitution provides for equal rights for all people. And I think it's about time we go into the courts. We have a new Supreme Court Justice, Clarence Thomas, I think, is a great man. We have a better Supreme Court now. I think there'll be more conservative positions coming down from the Supreme Court. So I think it's time for the state of Louisiana to challenge some of these decisions and stand up for true equal rights for all. Not the NAACP programs that discriminate against individuals, but truly equal rights for everyone in the state. We also have programs right now in Louisiana where you take a test for a job and they'll change your test score on the basis of your race rather than what you actually scored in the test. That's wrong and immoral. I believe in equal rights for everyone. I believe human rights must be for everyone in the state, and I think it's about time the state takes an active role in defending the rights of its citizens.
And Mr. Edwards, your response.
Well, it's really not fair to say that about changing test scores on the basis of race. Veterans used to get preferences, may still do it, I don't know. But you're right, Barry. We are required by federal law, and neither Mr. Duke nor I nor the legislature is going to be able to take a $300 million loss of federal funds by doing away with affirmative action in the Highway Department, which is the only department of the state that it's really a significant problem. Let me also say that most of the minority contracts that go in the Highway Department under this federally mandated program go to firms that are owned by women. And I certainly don't think Mr. Duke is suggesting that women should be set aside or not given some opportunity to participate in the bidding process. But the bottom line is, whether you like it or not, and I would prefer not to have it imposed upon me also, but we don't run the federal government. We need to cooperate with the federal government. We one of 50 states, and we can't afford to summarily and unilaterally make a decision like that, which would cost us $300 million in highway funds, as bad as we need the funds for our highways, as bad as we need the jobs on the highways, as bad as we need the sale of goods and services and supplies to highway contractors that build our highways. My point is simply this: it is not really that serious a problem when you consider that we are getting this money from the federal government and we're following the federal mandates just as every other state in the nation is doing. And it's giving an opportunity for women in particular, because they're the major beneficiaries of the program within the Highway Department.
Your time has expired. Thank you, Mr. Edwards. A question to Mr. Edwards now from Blue Rolfes.
Mr. Edwards, most of us would agree that economic diversification is a key to solving the state's financial problems. What will you do that is not already being done to attract new business to Louisiana?
Start out by constructing a new regional airport in the New Orleans area, which would create 6,000 to 10,000 jobs immediately and 15,000 permanent jobs thereafter. Provide some kind of a loan banking facility for fishermen and those involved in the fishing industry to process and package the products of the Gulf and the bayous and lakes of our state so that we get that result. Number two, work with industry along the Mississippi River to take the raw materials that they're making out of natural gas, water, and oil and try to develop satellite plants that make furniture, utensils, and other consumer products out of the basic plastic materials that are made. I'm already in touch with 5 or 6 large industries that are thinking about coming to Louisiana that Governor Roma has been negotiating with, and I've indicated to them that I would respect the negotiations that have been ongoing, and I'm ready to meet with them and to comply with whatever reasonable requirements they may make, just as I did when we got General Motors in Shreveport, Rockwell in Shreveport, Boeing in Lake Charles, and dozens of other smaller plants throughout the state. It's a go out and get them, go out and negotiate with them, go out and sell them on Louisiana, and that's what I really think is my strong suit, next to being able to deal with the legislature and show some effective leadership.
And Mr. Duke, your response.
Mr. Edwards, fishermen don't need government interference. They need simply to be left alone by government. Same thing with seafood processors. The taxes are killing us. We need a governor in this state that will fight the federal government on the TEDs and allow our fishermen to make a living and preserve their way of life. We need government to allow business to operate at a profit in the state of Louisiana. What's important in terms of economic development in our state? First, good government, honest government. We shouldn't have a government where you've got to give a bribe or give a contribution to be able to get something done or be treated fairly. Special privilege has been ruling this state for too long. Special privileges, it's time for that to end, where everyone gets a fair shake. Tax structure. Big government makes business less profitable because the taxes that business pays leads to unemployment, leads to a difficult time for the people who work. Working people, when they pay higher taxes, have less money to spend on business products and services, less money to buy a floor in their home or a roof or a new car or go out to dinner. Taxes are stifling business. Taxes are stifling industry, and taxes are hurting the working person in our state. Educational quality is vital, and certainly we've got to seek more businesses, but we've got to start doing the basic things that business needs. Big government destroys effective business. You've been the author of Big Government in Louisiana. You've been the author of big taxes in our state. We need less government and more individual freedom for the people of our state.
A question now to Mr. Duke from Signora Thomas.
Mr. Duke, whichever of you is elected come November 16th, you'll have to solve a projected $1 billion deficit in the budget. What steps will you take to do that?
Well, let's talk about it some. There's many aspects of that $1 billion budget. If we renew some of the sales tax, or most of the sales tax, that accounts for about $300 million of that amount. We also can push forward our risk management fund, $170 million. That takes care of a big chunk. We're expecting about a $175 million rebate from the federal government. We're also expecting about $100 million from the lottery next year. We're also expecting about $50 million from video poker and other revenues. I think we're going to need about $200 million of cuts the first year. I will make those cuts. That's what I'll work for, and I'll work to build. We've got to let attrition reduce the number of employees in the state of Louisiana. We have too many employees. We shouldn't fire anybody, but people change jobs, they retire. You know, let's let those jobs go away, and that way we can give our current employees a fair raise and start to reduce the size of government, which costs the people of this state so much in the long run. That's what we've got to do, and that's what I'll do to reduce the budget this year and over the next 4 years.
All right, a response now from Mr. Edwards.
That's an answer on which his facts and figures are pretty well accurate, and I will adopt them and suggest that that's a good way to approach the problem, but it only solves it for 1 year. My plan is then to call a constitutional convention, a tax reform convention, to prioritize taxes and prioritize spending so that we can lower the sales tax for the people of this state and shift the taxes that can be passed on in part to the federal government on federal income tax returns. Then we will also prioritize spending, because I'm not going to raise any more taxes. That is behind me. We cannot afford that anymore. We need to reduce the size of government, as he has said, and I think we can do it pretty well in the way he has indicated there. But then we've got to make sure that it doesn't happen to us 4 years from now again. I'm not going to let that happen. My convention is going to prioritize spending, and it's going to be so that when we'll say this much on education, this much on the environment, this much on health, this much on this, and when we get past that point, we'll just shut it off, because we can no longer afford to just allow government to grow as it has grown in the last 10 to 12 years.
All right, a question now for Mr. Edwards from Barry Irwin.